Could Chelsea's Enzo Maresca potentially be the successor to Pep Guardiola at Manchester City? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome to another video. Today's video is going to centre around that very question, after it was revealed today by David Ornstein that Manchester City are potentially putting together a contingency plan in place just in case Pep Guardiola decides to leave City this upcoming summer at the end of the season with 1 year left on his current deal. We're going to be talking about that question, as well as obviously looking at Enzo Maresca at Chelsea as of right now. But before we get into all of that and much more, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. I also encourage you all to get involved in the comment section down below. Use and abuse that section, people. Talk to me on what you have to say about this topic of conversation. I'm sure what you have to say will make for great and interesting reading. So please do use and abuse that comment section, people, with your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, and more down below. And without further ado, we're going to get on with the conversation ourselves. We're talking Enzo Maresca and potentially being the successor to Pep Guardiola. Now, this whole conversation stemmed from a social media post that was put out there by David Ornstein earlier today. Here is that post. He says, exclusive, Enzo Maresca high among candidates Manchester City are considering in case Pep Guardiola exits next summer. Manchester City are advancing contingency work for possibility of manager change. 45-year-old Chelsea coach prominent alongside other potential options. Now, this one's interesting for me because obviously we know that Enzo Maresca is basically a student, a disciple, a Padawan, if you will, of Pep Guardiola. We know that obviously Guardiola was a mentor, a teacher, whatever you want to call it, to Maresca. And I'm intrigued by this. Very much intrigued by this. As of what we know right now, Guardiola has got 18 months left, pretty much, on his current deal at Manchester City. His contract will be up in June of 2027, but there's no guarantee that he will see out that contract. And that is basically what David Ornstein is alluding to there. He's basically saying that just in case Guardiola decides to leave a year early, City are potentially stepping up their plans to find a successor for a seamless transition from one manager / head coach to the next. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. And obviously Enzo Maresca is seemingly on that list. What I find intriguing by this is this comes during the week in which Enzo Maresca pretty much called out his own club right now, stating that he feels like he doesn't really have everything that he needs, seemingly airing out a bit of frustration in the public domain about how Chelsea's season's gone so far. Now, for me, Chelsea's season has been a bit up and down. There have been some really good moments, and then it's followed by some underwhelming or disappointing moments. You only have to look at the past couple of weeks to show really what Chelsea's season has been in a bit of a nutshell. A 1-1 draw against Arsenal. Okay, it's a draw, but the way they played in that game, the adversity they had to go through with the red card to Moises Caicedo, and obviously putting in a solid, hard-working performance against Arsenal, despite the result not being a win, was something that at least they could look at and go, you know what, we're heading in the right direction. We just need that little bit of luck. We just need to stop making these silly mistakes, and maybe we can compete with the likes of the Arsenals and the Man Cities of this league. And then, of course, a few days later, they go and get absolutely slapped up by Leeds. They draw 0-0 with Bournemouth. They lose in the Champions League. That has basically been what Chelsea's season has been like in a bit of a nutshell. But I can't necessarily blame all of that on Maresca. All of the downfall this season, I can't blame on Maresca for its entirety. Like, yes, I'm sure there are a few moments where you can say maybe a lack of experience or maybe a slight overthinking moment from him may have cost Chelsea a moment or two in the game, could have even cost Chelsea the game, could have even cost them a couple of points in the game. I'm not saying he's entirely blameless, but when I look at that Chelsea team, and it goes back to what I said last season, that Chelsea team really did need 3 or 4 really good, experienced players to go from being where they were in terms of solidifying themselves in the Champions League spots to actually being title contenders. And whilst I've said this season that there is a possibility that they could be title contenders this season, and I think that maybe, they could have been this season, hasn't quite panned out that way. And, faltering to the likes of Leeds, for example, has kind of made me rethink about certain things. And I've gone, yeah. As much as they've got a young side building up, they need that experience. They need those good quality players. And they could have got them. The frustrating thing is, if you're a Chelsea fan right now, you should be looking at this team going, why did we spend all of this money on the likes of Gittins and Garnacho as just 2 prime examples when we could have used that money to buy an experienced, solid centre-back? Why couldn't we use that money to go and get a top-quality goalkeeper? Why couldn't we use that money that we spent on 2 wingers who may have a bit of potential about them, but if we want something for the here and now, why didn't we go and get a proper winger? A proper striker? As good as what I think João Pedro can be, he's limited. He is limited. I said that he'd do a job for Chelsea, but at the same time, I feel like he's very limited. And I feel like for the money you got, you could have got better. All of these things, I think, should be aimed at the board and not Maresca. Again, he's not blameless in certain games, but the board really have let him down, in my opinion. And I agree with what he was saying this week. He has been let down. I don't think he really said it in those kinds of words, but he was basically alluding to the fact that the club have let him down, and I 100% agree with him, because it's basically a stagnating season for Chelsea. Last season, Europa Conference League. You were expected to win that competition. You did the job. Well done. Club World Cup. Don't think anybody was expecting you to beat PSG in the final. You did that, but it shows the mentality of this Chelsea side that they can beat the teams that they are maybe not expected to beat, but it's the teams that are below and around them that they sort of slip up on those potential banana skins. Again, Leeds United as a prime example a few days after drawing with the league leaders Arsenal. That's the mentality of this side right now. And again, he's young, he's inexperienced. Don't go angry at the guy for being young and experienced. We know that these kinds of coaches make these mistakes. But for the most part, to win you 2 trophies in his first season, to play some of the football that you have been playing, to seemingly help, at the very least, get Reece James to a place where he is where he's been fit for over a year now, to at least help this Chelsea team develop, these young players develop. I don't think there's a lot more he can potentially do. I rate this guy's job that he's done at Chelsea. I just think, like I say, he has been let down by the board. Now, potentially, fast forward another 6 months or maybe even 18 months, and he could be ending up at Manchester City. If he does end up at Manchester City, he will have a lot more freedom. He'll have, obviously, a lot more expectation that comes with that freedom. But you can guarantee he'll be given what he wants and what he needs. Even though Pep not necessarily has, but for the most part, he will. Assuming that 115 charges magically just goes away completely. It's interesting. It's an interesting time. It's an interesting development. It's obviously all interesting to see what happens at Manchester City. Do they know something that we don't about the 115 charges? Is that why potentially Pep Guardiola is getting out of there before his final year is up? There's also set to be a lot of change at Manchester City coming in. That's what is being reported and rumoured about the club, particularly behind the scenes. So again, do they know something that we don't? Only time will tell. Or is this just planning for a new era at Manchester City, which a lot of teams eventually have to go through? Are City just trying to get a little bit ahead of the curve on that one to put them in the best possible place to be challenging consistently despite going through changes? For me, Enzo Maresca, like I say, there's a lot of potential with this guy. Yes, he makes mistakes. Yes, there are awkward moments. But for me, Chelsea right now and this guy, I don't know if Chelsea's project, and I've always questioned Chelsea's project. This isn't a new thing. But I've always questioned whether or not Chelsea's project would actually come to fruition in the end. Would the star players that they have in the likes of Caicedo, Cole Palmer, for example, and maybe even Reece James to a point, would they stick around long enough to watch these kids essentially grow into the players that maybe their potential may take them to, the levels that they may get to? Will they stick around long enough to watch them grow into those kinds of players? I'm not 100% sure they will. And especially when you consider that they've got more kids on that are coming in the summer. You know, I think they've signed about 3 or 4 new up and coming talent that is set to be coming in next summer as well. So again, Chelsea trying to get their business done early. When does it stop? Like I say, I personally think that Chelsea could be challenging this year up there with Arsenal if they had just adapted their transfer policy to go for a bit more experience, a bit more output, just a bit more star quality, a bit more of a match-winning ability about those kinds of players that they're bringing in. Not these youngsters who may have an insane amount of potential, a lot of promise, but there's no guarantee they'll get there. And especially when you put them all in the same environment. When you put them all in the same environment, it's never been done. It's never been done unless maybe, I don't know, maybe an Ajax team, for example, have done it, or someone else. I'm not saying it, I've never seen it, but at a top level, at a top in a top league, I've never seen a group of youngsters just be molded, gel together, and have the time and patience to grow into the players that they sort of have the potential to be, the promise to be, and eventually go on to be successful. I've never personally seen it, and I don't think this manager is going to be there to see it either, because I think the frustration is growing. I think Chelsea aren't going to give him what he needs, what he wants. And if I am City, I am strongly considering this guy as my successor to Pep Guardiola. I really, really am. Like I say, it's interesting times at City. 115 is still seemingly looming, even if the people that were meant to be giving the verdict in like March, April, September, October, December, seemingly want it to go away as well. No idea why. We'll see on that one, but hopefully we'll see on that one anyway. Hopefully not someone with a magic wand has just come and waved all them charges away or whatever. We'll see if they're guilty or not. We'll see what this whole new era implies for Manchester City. But it could be the dawning of a new era in terms of a new manager in 2026. David Ornstein reports that Pep Guardiola might be leaving in the summer of 2026. Obviously, his contract does run out in 2027, so it does seem like we are closer to the end of Guardiola's reign as City manager than we are to the beginning of it. And Enzo Maresca at Chelsea might be his successor. Like I say, for me, Maresca's not blameless in all of in the bad things that Chelsea have been involved with this season. But at the same time, I'm not saying he's blameless, but at the same time, I think a large majority of that blame should be placed on the club. I do feel sorry for him in many respects. And overall, I actually do rate him as a manager, you know. I do rate Maresca as a manager. And like I say, 2 trophies, even if one was pretty much a given, nothing to be sniffed at. Anyway, those are just my thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever else you want to call it, on this situation, on this topic at hand. I want to know from you guys, though, what do you think about all this? Do you think Enzo Maresca could potentially succeed Pep Guardiola at Manchester City? Leave your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comment section. And whilst you're down there, of course, let me know what you think about Maresca and Chelsea's season as well on top of all of that. Would love to know what you guys are thinking and feeling about all of that stuff combined. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your night. Speak to you all again very, very soon.